Greetings, my very dear friends. Your friend, Professor Edin Dibuago, a professor of public health medicine and the lead for Community Positive Health Attitude Initiative. We try to bring you this positive health attitude talk. This is the fourth and final episode on diabetes. And during this session, we're going to be talking about complications and myths of diabetes. So complications of diabetes is a big problem. Once diabetes is uncontrolled, it has effect on virtually many organs of the body, kidneys, eyes, so many things. And these complications are usually divided into acute and then chronic, the ones that occur insidiously and are slower in onset. But acute ones can be life-threatening. In fact, it might be the first presentation when the person is knowing that he's diabetic and they could kill. Acute complications usually arise when the blood sugar is so high and then it's grouped into what they call diabetic ketoacidosis. Diabetic ketoacidosis is when, like we say, even if you test the urine, you start having ketones. And you have these ketones because the liver, instead of breaking down, using glucose as a source of energy, is now breaking down fat, and producing ketones to be used as a source of energy for the body. Is a problem, it's a metabolic problem. So once this happens and it goes on and the sugar level is not controlled, eventually the person can go into coma. These are some of the things they talk about diabetic coma. So diabetic ketoacidosis, it presents, you see the patient, abdominal pain, weakness, vomiting, those are the things. You see somebody who is that, you won't know what is happening until you do those tests, So that is diabetic ketoacidosis. The second type of this, acute complication is hyperosmolar, non-ketotic diabetic syndrome. Non-ketotic because you don't have ketones in this one. It's more slower in onset and it occurs more in elderly people, but it's a big problem. In that one too, the sugar level could be as high as 600 milligram percent. It's a very bad one too, especially in the elderly. So that is a complication of a diabetes. And lastly, the last acute complication of diabetes is the one they call lactic acidosis. Lactic acidosis is almost, the presentation is like diabetic ketoacidosis, but you have lactate, high level of lactate in the blood, and you don't have ketones. These are the fine diagnoses when the doctor's managing does, and then it guides line of management. So these are acute complications of diabetes mellitus. And my dear friends, let's do all we can so that you don't fall a victim to this. The chronic complications, they're usually as a result of the effect it has on small blood vessels. Usually, the effect on small blood vessels, we refer to it as microvascular effects, of diabetes. Effects on major blood vessels, we say, is microvascular effects. But the one that is a lot more glaring is the microvascular effects. This thing can affect like the small vessels in the kidneys, primarily the kidneys. When it affects the small vessels in the kidneys, the sugar level damages some portion of those kidneys. You have what we call diabetic nephropathy. You find out that poorly controlled, it could lead to end-stage renal failure. Some people who end up losing their kidney and having a transplant and all that is as a result of diabetes. The effect on kidney was manifested in the year 2016. A study they did in 54 countries revealed that end-stage renal disease was caused by diabetes in about 12 to 55% of cases. And it was also found that 1 in every 10 people with end-stage renal disease had diabetes mellitus. So you see, it's a problem. It's a problem that people must try to avoid. So that's the effect of the kidney. Then the other problem, the other microvascular complication you could have could be on the eyes. They have what they call diabetic retinopathy. It keeps depositing this sugar in the person's eyes, and eventually the person could go blind. 2010 again, it was found that some people went blind. About 2.6% of global blindness was attributed to diabetes. From the eyes, then you go to the nerves. They call it neuropathy, diabetic neuropathy. It affects the nerves, and this is the one really that leads to some men with diabetes having erectile dysfunction. And because of that too, you have numbness of the feet and fingers. Some people who have diabetes can't feel because the end arteries, they've had problems there, and then the nervation has had problems. And you find out that this effect on the nerves can also eventually lead to amputation, because they have wound and they don't feel wound. They don't feel pain. It endangers them a lot. And even the chronic complication, you have infections. It predisposes one to infection. You find out that people who have diabetes frequently get infection. They even have urogenital infection. That's what they call balanitis, inflammation of the penis and all that. The female can have what they call vulvitis, vaginitis. Outside the microvascular complications, you also have the macrovascular. This was straight, the effect on the big arteries predispose people to having things like even hypertension, stroke, angina pectoris, all these cardiac problems that arise from complications of diabetes. My dear friends, the last bit of this episode, let's talk about myths and misconceptions. These are the things erroneous beliefs people hold about diabetes, so many of them. But let's start by saying some people believe that once diabetes does not run in their families, they can never get it. It's not true. Because if you keep exposing yourself to the risk factors we talked about, you can get diabetes. It's not a must that your father or mother must have had it. So come off that myth and then face reality. Do the needful. Some even think that once they have diabetes, they should not be exercising. Again, not true, because exercise is one of the ways, non-medical ways, you can control diabetes. But please, if you're on diabetic medication, you must watch. If you take medication, there is a level of exercise you do, and it will push down your blood sugar so bad that you might have hypoglycemia. So you watch it. Especially, exercise is so good, especially if you're not on drugs. With exercise and diet, you can control your diabetes. Drug comes last, The other myth people talk about, they say that diabetes is never curable. It's a myth in the sense that, remember when we talked about types of diabetes, If you have secondary diabetes caused by something, once you treat the cause, you've cured it. But of course, in the other ones, if you maintain the proper lifestyle, eat well, do exercises well, you control it, and this is in that way, it's never a problem. It might never be a problem for you in life. So it's a myth to think that once you have diabetes, you're finished. Nothing you can do about it. No. Some again think that diabetes is caused by some form of witchcraft or diabolic means. So they must handle it through that way. So many people have died because of this. Some, before you know it, the blood sugar will shoot up so much that before you know it, they are coming back to medical care. They're in coma. They're in one of those bad forms of coma. So don't ever think. In fact, even if it is spiritually induced or something, there's things you can do to control it. So don't fix your mind that you can't take orthodox medicine because it's spiritually projected. Some, because of this spiritual thing too, say it's either you treat it herbally or it must be handled through the prayer houses. No, you need to pray. We all need to pray. In fact, not everybody that takes medicine that it works. So that's why you need to pray, so that the medicine you're taking also works for you. But for you to live the orthodox care for diabetes and insist only on prayer is myth. It won't work. So many also have died because of this. In fact, some go on taking, I told you can take vegetables and fruits, but you find out that some will tell you, take pear, take the seed, chew it, grind it. Some say you take guava, get the leaf and dry and all sorts of funny things. In fact, I've seen some people were advocating cassava leaf, take this portion of it and do. The funny thing is that people believe and they share. My dear, please, information is power. You can check. Anything that is not scientific is not all right. So if not, why did all of us, even our ancestors, if they were doing well with chewing leaves and all that, why did they bother sending us to learn these orthodox ways of doing things? I'm not saying alternate methods don't take. No, they do, but don't take chances. Don't take chances. Once you, like diet, you watch your diet, take good diet. But then, of course, take care of yourself. Another myth is that people think that it's only old men and women that you get diabetes. Of course, remember, if you listen to the types of diabetes, type 1 occurs in people who are 25 years and below. So it's not only for, of course, from 45 years, you are more in danger. But when you're talking of old men, some think you must be up to 65. And so no, it's a myth. Once you're 45, or even before then, do the routine test. You can at least do routine tests. You don't need to get pricked, So that is it. And some think that once you control your blood sugar, you stop taking diabetic medicine. It's not true. Like I said, once you control your blood sugar and you keep maintaining your lifestyle and check, well, you need to monitor. Don't just leave it and say it's okay and you go away and keep eating and drinking the way you are doing. No, it doesn't work. So these are myths that we must avoid. Do you know some believe that you can contact diabetes by even shaking hands or having sexual intercourse with somebody who has diabetes? Some say it's not true. That's why it's called non-communicable disease. It's one of the classical non-communicable diseases. It's not contagious. So if your relation or your friend or your spouse has diabetes, it has nothing to do. That's when the fellow needs your support more. Don't ever stigmatize anybody with diabetes saying it's contagious. If I shake him, I'll get it. If I hug him, I'll get it. No. You'll be surprised some people still say that. So my very, very dear friends, we are coming to the end of this episode. And usually our message, if you have diabetes, do all you can to, by way of secondary prevention, make diagnosis early and initiate treatment. So, but you can do so many things to avoid this. And I keep telling you, referring to WHO, that WHO even told you, go to these things on the internet. If you go to their key facts, they published on 16th of September last year, 2022, you find out that they told you that diabetes can be treated and the consequences largely avoided if you do the needful by watching what you eat and exercising. You can treat the complications and then make sure you monitor yourself well. You stay safe, and please stay safe for your loved ones. And for us, so that's why we're putting all these efforts. We haven't seen you, but we love you. We love you so dearly because you're God's creature. So work hard and style. There's so many things you still can do for humanity. So many things. Once you are alive, you're an asset. And I remember there's this Rotary team that used to say, mankind is our business. Let's work for mankind. Stay alive. But you can't do it if you let yourself have diabetes and die. And if you have diabetes, you don't do the needful. Please. Like people keep saying, it's not my portion. I reject it. You don't have power to determine what is your portion. It can be anybody's portion. And if it's coming to you, you can't reject it. Some go to do charms and do things to protect themselves. No, it really doesn't work. It complicates things to you. That's one of the myths. Please, stay alive, we love you. And then next time, watch out for our next video. And the details of everything we tell you, you can get from our blog in our website, Community Positive Health Attitude Initiative. If you Google it, you get to our website. It's www.cophai.com. We have a section for blog, and all these things we are telling you, we've written them down, thoroughly researched papers. Thank you so much, and may God bless you.